Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are across the globe. We are your hosts, Shawn Alvari, and yours truly, Shayon Jalayer, and you are about to experience the S2 effect. Today, all things U.S. women's national team. Kick the intro. Kind of going back to that 1991 team. For those who don't know, the first world competition was in 1985, and we were kind of not spectacular. I think our first couple results were a loss to, if I can remember, it was Italy, uh, China, and may have been a German team, and it was just kind of our first international kind of stepping stone. Uh, by 1985, 86, 88, through that time, that's when the U.S. Soccer Federation starts to say, okay, we need to make a shift towards kind of establishing a women's program. And that's when the famed Anson Dorrance is hired to take over the program. And then in 1991, they win what was called the Mondalita, which is, you know, uh, which was the World Championships. But ultimately, it's the first time that we won a World Championship on the women's side. And what's so amazing to think about where we were then to where we were now, I heard a story that when the women's national team returns back from winning a world championship, mind you, there was I think very little TV coverage. They may have shown the final in delay. They get back to JFK and they're only met by 12 people. And I think most of that's family, maybe one soccer. It could have been Soccer America at the time that was kind of there. Uh, so it was a long road, and we've talked about how I respect pioneers so much, and I don't think people realize what that group of women did for the game. I'm so happy that as they have retired and moved on to different parts of soccer culture and soccer leadership, that they're getting their respect with whether it's you know movies, documentaries, which is great. And I think I've always said this: if we don't learn from history, we're condemned to repeat it. I think it's important that we learn from our predecessors, the good and the bad, and they did so many things for the women's game. But you think about, you know, it, they talked about being in a final in, I think it was in China. They set a world record of 90,000 people in attendance, and they come back to their own soil, and nobody knows what's happened, And so, uh, but what a great movement, right? That's sometimes what happens to kind of stir the imagination, and they almost became the underground group, right? So um, they created the movement, and although young ladies were playing college soccer since Title IX was, I think, passed in 1972, it didn't take hold until that 1991 World Championship, and and I think they made a stir, and so there's a lot of different avenues now we can take this conversation, but when you think about where they were, you know, people quitting their jobs so that they could, you know, pay full attention to this dream, to me is amazing. They weren't getting compensated, and some of them absolutely left jobs, left school to make sure that they could follow this dream. So I just think it's amazing.
No, I mean, being a pioneer is, I think, the most difficult situation to be in when you're paving your own path.
Yeah.
Um, at those times, especially with that 91, um, you know, coaches like Anson, they they didn't really have football mentors in those times. It's the sport is growing. I mean, even when he talks about a lot of his tactics and coaching styles he got was from Dean Smith from the UNC, how he would study those and incorporate it within the UNC women's soccer program. Women athletes that the Mia Hams of who they became, their role models weren't female players during this time. They're paving their own path
Yeah.
to inspire now who they became role models to the next generation. And